Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Off the Track podcast with myself, Fergus Barlow. My guest tonight is Richard Crozier, who is the Mull Rally Clark of the course. That's where we all know him from, and well-known gentleman in the rallying community. So, hello,
Gentlemen.
Richard.
Yeah, I don't know where you got gentlemen from, but yeah, well, good evening. Thanks for having us tonight, Fergus, as well.
Yeah, just trying to be polite there. So we've got some big news. Obviously, last night we had the big mic drop, and we got the proposed route that kind of came out of that community council meeting that we all kind of jumped on dead quick. We're sharing screenshots all over
I was
the
about to say,
place.
I think folk are getting wise to the fact it's usually in December we do this sort of stuff now, because it was, oh God, what, December 2020 when the first of this new process and started. And yeah, I think folk are getting wise to the way that we do this now. So I think it must be the biggest audience like of the year that community council meeting attracts now. I think they're getting smart.
So anyway, very exciting. Gonna pull up the route and basically have a look at it. And yeah, I'd like you we'll just have a bit of chat about the route and kind of discuss how you came to this route. I think it's absolutely fantastic, if I'm being totally honest.
Obviously, 23 was quite a wee bit different. I think we received probably more negativity than it kind of deserved in some respects, but I would probably say that. But I think we maybe did not the best of jobs in kind of bringing people on the journey with us in terms of kind of what we were trying to do and maybe the communication of it. So yeah, it's been quite an intense couple of months, a month and a half really.
Yeah,
I think it's just by the nature of the closed road process now. And I was just down at Motorsport UK a week and a half or so ago and having this same discussion with other closed roads organisers. It's a really fast turnaround the way the timescales are and processes now that you're straight out of one and straight into the other. So you're
yeah.
never off the hamster wheel.
Is that the same
So
for all rallies, Richard? Is it, or is Mull particularly difficult and quick paced in that sense?
no, Great Britain wise, so the process is now pretty much the same across England, Scotland, and Wales. Obviously, in the past it was just the Jim Clark Act and the Strathclyde Act 1990, so we were kind of unique. But now that
Yeah,
we've got like the East Riding, Northwest Stages, Tenerife, Clacton, Three Shires, all these other events, we're all finding the same, that it's a year-round kind of consultative process. So yeah, no, it's really you kind of ideally need to be thinking about the following years before you go into the current one. So yeah, so we've just about managed to kind of pick ourselves, dust ourselves down, pick ourselves back off the ground, and you're straight into trying to wade through the feedback and distill everything down in your own thoughts as
how
to kind
was
of
the feedback,
direction.
Richard? I mean, was there a lot of it to go through? Did you personally go through every single response email personally and go through them all?
It's not so much. I think most of what we've done has been through the forums, and what I must say is actually that the feedback response rates for Mull are absolutely tremendous. We get hundreds of even just through our initial cascade through emails or to competitors, a little bit on social media to our spectators and to also to the community. You're getting hundreds and hundreds through that. You're able to draw down the way we do it. You're able to draw down some data, so you're able to look at some trends and pie charts and things like that as to kind of like what people's thoughts are. So, but it's useful even just to go at a glance look through, the summary of the sort of comments and get a feel for everything.
Mm.
So that's been kind of a process through the last few weeks and just trying to get a feel for kind of where we wanted to take things ourselves. Ideas is you always kind of I've found this in years of organizing road rallies and single venues and whatnot before this, that you have an idea when you get to an event of what I wish I had done differently by
Hmm.
the time and I think the time you get to an event and you don't have those thoughts is probably the time to stop. So it always forms the basis of kind of what you want to do the following year. So we kind of had those anyway, but kind of what you get from the feedback kind of reaffirms that. The initial thing from my side was actually to try and build on the concept that we had started in 23, and I think what we had the basics of something that would have been really really good.
And
But the
what do you
feedback,
mean by that concept? What is that concept?
it was that 23 was really about trying to streamline what hitherto in the recent years has become quite an inefficient event. We're up at about 13 rescue units and everything else, and with the cost of living challenges and everything else, and trying to attract people to the island, just the general principle was to try and deliver three-quarters of an event with maybe about two-thirds as much resource, and just make it more efficient, and try to deliver as good an event for everybody as possible. And also I keep talking about future proofing the event, but I'm trying to you try on the organizing side to kind of identify potential threats that are going to come in the coming years. And I can kind of see it just with the nature of the external threats in the way the world is at the moment, particularly post the FAI and everything else in the mid 2010s, that if we have something go wrong in the final leg in the wee hours, then FAI is going to look at it and go, no, what were you doing up for 20 hours with no sleep as the the event policing leader, whatever. So I think a lot of it was trying to deliver something in line with the spirit of the event, whilst also being a wee bit more sensible hours wise.
Right.
So
Okay.
but also trying to maximize kind of value for our stakeholders. So actually, I think the from a selfish point of view, the scenes of kind of you and Craig on the top of the car just after midnight outside Tobermory, it kind of lands better a little bit just after midnight than it back end of 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. So and also the way we kind of sell the island, obviously that maybe then leads into your kind of daytime versus dark aspect. But I think the biggest thing right now, obviously, with more, as we just mentioned, more closed roads events on the mainland, is that we need to kind of focus in on what keeps Mull unique and special,
Yeah.
and the USPs basically.
And
Probably
what
more
would
and
you
more.
say those are?
The dark is one of those. But I
Yeah.
think that the nature of the roads, and also just that the scenery, the nature, the feeling you get of an island event. I mean, the Manx is probably similar in Jersey also, but for Mull it's particularly special as well, as everybody well knows. And it kind of just brings everybody that greater sense of community. As an area, it's awesome as well, because for an island of 2,000, people, the population, the motorsport or petrol headness per head of population must be greater than just about anywhere in the UK. So that
Yeah.
kind of adds to the specialness of it.
Mm-hmm.
For 24, you kind of have to be aware of the emerging threats and opportunities. But the opportunity this year is the increase in the Bogie speeds from Motorsport UK, who've gone to the sports insurers, and it's been a long time coming. I think that for tar, the average speed has been 75 mile an hour since the early 2000s, if not earlier. And obviously the pace of cars has come on quite a lot in those 20 years. What Rally 2 can do compared to previous years.
Yeah.
So we've got 80 miles an hour for next year, and that just kind of opens up a few more opportunities in
Yeah.
terms of
What does that mean in literally in cash terms? Like, are we getting less bails in the straights, and are
yeah.
we going to have a bit quicker sections? Are we going to notice this big time?
I wouldn't say big time. Certainly for Mull, it's not too bad. But yeah, I think that's a lot of the background, is that we were putting chicanes in just purely to keep things under the average speed, under the 75 miles an hour. And that's definitely part of it, is that now we're in parity with the Republic of Ireland in terms of average speeds. And it just means that the stages can be that much more flowing, and chicane should only really be for particular hazards. So the likes of maybe just before knock jump or at the bottom of the steps, you might keep them still there because they're there for a reason. But just putting a chicane in purely to keep it under an average speed, which is kind of an arbitrary, it doesn't really affect the safety of anything. And in fact, we know of accidents that have happened because somebody's been braking for a chicane. So yeah, I think it's a positive step forward. But for us specifically, that's opened up options. So the likes of we can, if you want to go back to the screen share, that was something we were keen to explore for this year for sure. was just for me, just trying to minimize the amount of chicanes that we've developed over the years, and looking at stage layouts that could kind of maximize those. So we touched, I think, briefly there is the return of a Greben, not Greben Rocks as such. It's slightly west of there, but
Yeah.
you'll
Well,
know
I tell
there.
you what, Richard, let's go on to it here,
Yeah,
and we will have a look at this route that I'm very enthusiastic about. So here we've got it here. I'm going to have a look at this nice and close, and we'll talk through it. Okay, so, or I'll tell you what, it's your route that I hope you're proud of. So, yeah, talk me through it. I'll move the mouse, and we'll follow on. So we've got stage one there. If you want to just kind of talk us through your route and perhaps the way of thinking, how you kind of ended up at this route that we've got.
yeah. It was a bit of a throwback to the kind of olden days, really, for the first few stages. I think the feedback from internally within the team was that we wanted to start in Tobermory, and we could have. I actually was quite a fan of the start we had in 22. If you just run the northern stages, so Mishnish and Calgary and Tua. But we thought, just for something a little bit different, and particularly those average speed options offered. If we start with the Glen combined with the Hill Road on its own, that combo, they used to beat the Bogie back in the day, but with 80 miles an hour, it should be feasible. So and
Fantastic. So this is real time. What the difference we are seeing with this increase in bogey is what has allowed us to do these stages.
yeah. So it's all subtle
Fantastic.
stuff. But yeah, so we'll hopefully have Smitty Junction as kind of one of the first main junctions of the rally. So there should be quite a good atmosphere there.
Excellent.
Finishing at the bottom of the hill road, just a short jaunt around the corner. The original idea was to maybe have two stages just along one or two stages along Tua, but maybe one of them starting just after the school. There's a few new houses from Alva Housing Partnership that are on the outside of a bend there, so we do need a chicane there, but otherwise it's a good flowing stage to get stuck into, and we don't need the kind of, I think we've had a 5-element chicane right out the front of the school,
Yeah.
mostly for average speeds the last few years, so that can go away and let the stage be a little bit more flowing. I think Dan Harper beat the Bogie by about a tenth of a second this year, so yeah, that was a 75-mile-an-hour Bogie. So yeah, it should be good having a couple of kind of 10+ mile stages to get stuck into. But I think one thing you maybe seen the last couple of years, particularly for me as a competitor, is on the opening leg when you're seeding, you do the best you can to seed everybody, but always there's somebody performs above or below. And if you have a 20-mile stage or something like that, I've often had it on the first leg of a multi-day event where you get caught out, somebody in front makes a mess of it, and you end up with a notional or something like that, or catching people, and it kind of sets you on the back foot for the rest of the event a little bit, even before you've had your first reseed.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a general preference I have on the first legs is towards kind of shorter stages. So 12, 10 or 12 is kind of okay. But hopefully that's maybe something that kind of got lost in the all the stuff from 23. But I mean, we saw in 23 the likes of Alec Brown jumping up from 44th to 12th overnight after the first leg, and a few other kind of story. I think Ali Curry jumped up quite a few as well. So yeah, there's definitely, from a sporting perspective, there's kind of merits to that. So nice and punchy once you get down to between those two stages. Potentially a regroup in Salon. We just need to kind of work through the logistics of this, but for me, kind of regroups are a good opportunity in terms of kind of public engagement. I've seen them done fantastically in Europe, and a few other events in the UK do get them quite right. So I think that's something, hiding them in a quarry or something like that, is if we can actually bring them to the likes of Leipzig or Salon, it's kind of a really good opportunity. So yeah, down
Yeah.
to
No, that'll be really good,
services.
Richard. That'll be really good, I think. And then kind of moving on, so we've got Greben here now. This one here, this is stopping where it normally stops. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So we're down to service in Craignier at normal time at 9 p.m. And then back up again, doubling back again. But yeah, into Greben. We're kind of stage team limited. So we try to keep a certain amount of stage teams and also our net amount of resources, so your rescues and recoveries and everything else. So we did look at the potential for this new stage or brought back stage
Yeah,
just west of there on the Friday night, but it's maybe just a few too many stage teams on the Friday. So
right,
yeah,
okay.
just stopping as normal and then Screeding thereafter.
And then we're heading down to our turn. What a
Yes.
fantastic decision, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Some people, might say no, might say yes, but I think that the whole island deserves to benefit from the rally, and I think what you've done there, giving our turn back to the people down the Ross, down the south, is well and truly deserved. No, it's fantastic. As a competitor, I'll be more than happy to drive down there that short little bit after we come out of Screedon. And do so. Are we heading back to service before we head down there? Are
No,
we?
it was something we looked at, was coming kind of back to the north and doing something else. But just in terms of the total leg length, it's about that kind of looking after our people and try to keep the overall night. Give us a good night to get into things, but without
Mhm.
kind of dragging the whole night out to the wee hours too long, and keep everybody fresh for the Saturday. So in terms of the Ross, this is something we've kind of kicked about for a few years now. A lot of to and fro internally as to whether we should or shouldn't. But for me personally, it's something that I've kind of been really keen for a good couple of years now. That I think in the would have been 22 on the Saturday daytime. It was originally included just as a single pass on 30 seconds, just at the end of the leg.
Mm,
Same as this layout basically, but we didn't do it because I think if you go down there, you kind of want to do two laps interposed basically.
absolutely. If you're going to
It,
make
it,
the effort and use burn the fuel getting down there, you may as well go round it twice.
Yeah. So no, it definitely. I think from my perspective, it'll be. I think it's 2016 is the last time it's run, so it's going to be a good knocking on for 8 years by the time we actually go back. And for me, it's one of those cases almost where if you don't use it, you'll lose it. So I
Yeah.
really think PR wise, we need to kind of keep things ticking over, keep the local enthusiasm down there, and there'll be a lot of incomers and possibly some new build houses. So for sure, there's going to be some PR challenges for us to kind of address. But I'm really hopeful with the support of everybody that we've got down there. They've been kind of crying out for a few years, and I think you mentioned there it's Marmite. There's absolutely no doubt about that.
Hmm.
But I think this year, after 23, a lot of it's going to be about headlines and kind of good news stories and buzz and wanting people to come back and do this event. And
Yeah.
for sure, this is something different, and it kind of pricks your ears up a little bit. And if it's a stage that's not been done since 2016 and an area of the island that's not been engaged, then for sure that's something positive.
No, brilliant, brilliant. Good job on that. And I did listen to the community council meeting, and I did like Angus Williams' comment regarding accommodation down the bottom end of the island. Now, if we're running that stage, then perhaps that opens up, folk to use the accommodation a bit more willingly down there. If they're based there and we're kind of finishing or coming back up to Craigmuir, say, or however which way we're going about it, service crews, etc. It might not be too out the way to kind of have everyone based down there, or certainly further
Yeah,
south. So
yeah. I think there's actually I say a brand new, but there's a new campsite that's been developed at Penigale. It's
that's
certainly a
right.
lot bigger
Yep.
than it was before. So there's definitely more accommodation options down there. We're looking at potentially whether we end the leg in Benesson, and also at Craigmuir. But if you're actually, there are a number of competitors who do stay down in the Ross as it is. So it's a bit unfair to them to drag them up to Craigmuir to have them to about face again. So kind of
Yeah.
this is the not. I should say at this point that the non-stage aspects are very much up for debate.
Yeah.
Internally.
The nitty
Um,
gritty that can be dealt with later on.
right now we're consulting on the road closures, but yeah, the idea of kind of a final control around the Penigale sort of area just kind of, yeah, as you say, opens up that accommodation aspect, but is not too far flung for kind of those that want to stick it on a trailer somewhere down Glenmore and kind of get up and away back to Salmon or Tob as needs be.
No, brilliant. Right. Well, we'll move on to leg two, and let's have a look. So where are we starting here, Richard? Where are we setting off into the daylight?
Salon, so not quite as early this year. We did have some feedback from the community just in terms of carers and a few other bits and bobs that the early morning that you're usually accustomed to on other rallies was just a wee bit trickier relative to what the island was used to. So kind of back to normal-ish sort of time. But in terms of impacts, it's a little bit easier to run the south of the island first. So yeah, and also just in terms of our stage teams, trying to keep everything consistent. So the south's first, just so that everybody gets an even amount of rest. So starting in Salon, hopefully keep our arch set up there the same after regroup, and then into Benmore kind of in the daylight as we had in the same direction in 23. But then this new stage or returning stage, I'm trying to think the last time Gruben will have been on. I reckon 2015, the last time we were past the phone box.
Potentially, it could have been. Yep, you'll be jogging my
Yeah,
memory now, but
you'll
yep.
have done it, won't you? Because I remember you catching us in the dark in 2014. So you'll have, but there'll be a lot of competitors. Lee Hastings will hate for saying that. But there'll be a lot of competitors that definitely haven't done this kind of within their lifetime or their competing time, should I say.
Yeah.
The rocks is still off limit. Let's say we don't want this known as Greben Rocks because it's not.
Yeah, apologies about that. I got a bit excited there when I put that up. So, but yeah, I mean, if we're cutting out the little bit that's actually at the rocks themselves, we're starting just shortly after. Everyone just wants that big long straight. I mean, the memories and the sounds of these Mark II escorts going up there and Callum Duffy talking about his top speeds, well above, 130, 140, even more than that miles an hour along that straight. That's just incredible. And I think that's what all gives us goosebumps. We just want to see that. And obviously that famous video of Peter Taylor coming down the hill. It's just
I was
brilliant.
about to say exactly that. So this is exactly we wouldn't really have been able to do this under the old 75 mph Bogie, but just having the 80 mph Bogie will give us increased confidence to be able to do this. We still need a few wee details just to bottom out in terms of exact start and finish locations and flying finishes and things. But it should be good. And even the kind of sweeping kind of switchback bends up up around Balmeenich, it's a beautiful part of the island there as you kind of look west. Photographically, it's stunning as well. So. But yeah, the Peter Taylor video was one thing I actually did as part of my homework just to make sure the feasibility study of this was if you I think you start it at 7 seconds and you time it to just about where the rocks start, and it's pretty bang on 80 mph. It's pretty close. So I think that it'll be quick. It'll be marginal, but for sure it's an opportunity that's afforded to us by these new rules, and there's still ongoing discussions. I don't know if you're across kind of an international level these discussions on on virtual chicanes. They have them in kind of America and Australia and a few other using the Rally Safe system. So there's kind of ongoing discussions as to whether you could run slowly past the rocks and run it all as one stage, but unfortunately, technologically, we're not quite there yet. It's not possible. But for sure, for now, with the rule set we've got, then this is probably the kind of best option is having the two separate stages with only a half mile or so past the rocks.
Exciting stuff. We're getting it to go. No, that's very cool. Very excited for that. So then we're obviously going Screeden, heading south, and then around, and then you're giving me the Glen again during the day. That's just fantastic. That's naughty, that.
Yeah, this is why this is a consultation period. Things like this that are so new. We were a little bit nervous about the daytime, southern stage closures, and particularly obviously Dervig's a little bit more populous. So there's still some work to be done during this public consultation phase just to understand the impacts of that. But and obviously there's quite a long road section round to that via Craignier and Salon, but hopefully that can work. But yeah, the Glen in daytime is just something that was kind of suggested kind of in passing by a few people this past year or so, past few months, and said wouldn't it be cool to do that. I don't think it's ever been particularly done before. I need to check I need to go back to Mull Museum and read through the rally archives again. But yeah, no, the Glen in daytime, and like I say, a big part of this public consultation is just understanding whether running competitive uphill through Dervig is feasible. But the Glen Achmadrift stage, as we call it, the last, it's been the last stage for a good number of years, is classic, and it's just about the right length to. Obviously, we're still running on 30s at this at this point on a Saturday, so around to me around 20 kilometers, kind of 12 and a half miles, is just about feasible. So it just kind of lends itself to that quite nicely.
Excellent.
Yeah,
No,
hopefully we
very
can get it
cool
through.
stage. Very cool stage. So we're coming round then, and then what are we doing? We're coming down and doing round Calgary, are we? And then back to Tob via Derby
Yeah,
again, is it?
that's right. I mean, a lot of kind of where my my personal preference was kind of like to see if we can look at ways of streamlining our service parks and whatnot, and even running a Saturday daytime leg without service, just to
Right.
kind of
Okay.
it also keeps things more compact as well. But certainly the feedback from the team and everything that we know, as customers of the rally, is people are used to a Tobermory daytime service on the Saturday, and the yeah, just in terms of public engagement, really, you like the buzz around service, and it's good to bring it to that even just wandering around Craigniu on the Friday or the Saturday night, and Tobermory on uh, the Saturday daytime. So yeah, service and Tob as usual. So that's kind of where the Glen drift stage kind of came from to lend us into there. But yeah, we've got a little bit of a long run background via Salin and Grulin, and then up to yeah, Calgary. Just a single run. So keeps it nice and efficient for the marshals before we kind of slot back into to Achmadrish on its own after Dervig. So there's a little bit of management required to get everything moved around to get that slot things back in time after the first loop. But hopefully the timings will work out all right before we slot back in for a second run of the locks. So where do we
Okay,
leave
so
off?
that's us coming towards the end of leg two. If we go on to the final leg, now
Gets
look
more
at that,
complex
isn't
looking.
that just fantastic? So talk
Gets
us
more
through this,
complex.
Richard. This is leg three. How did you come to this? Tell us a bit about what you're excited about on it and what's your thoughts?
So the initial version of this was kind of similar to what we did this year of a big meaty leg, just kind of run twice. The original proposal was Screen, maybe Greeben West, as we maybe call it, and knock into a long one of some sort on the north. This year, obviously, we were a bit fuel limited, so I think part of the appeal this year was trying to find something that was a little bit more compact. And looped back round to service and to fuel a little bit better. But again, it kind of comes back to the opportunities afforded by this increase in Bogie speeds. We could do a normal long one, kind of Calgary tour, but the opportunity this year was to do what I would call the long and fast one. So we've got
No, I like it. Cool.
Tua and Hill and the Glen. So again, it would be a bit more probably over marginal on 75 mile an hour averages, but with the 80, we've just with the Glen being so fast, we've kind of got the headroom to do it. So we're looking at around 22, 23 miles. That and it just loops back nicely for back on itself. Easy recce as well if you wanted to do 2 runs of it there. You're not too far from Aris Bridge back down to Killychronin. So yeah, so that the original idea was for 2 runs of that and then turn left at the bridge and up to Tub for the finish. But we kind of looked at it that obviously with that amount of mileage, there's a risk that in terms of recoveries and it getting blocked or whatever for your second pass. So it was suggested kind of just quite late in the day that we try and mix it up a little bit. And we kind of came up with this other idea of running and we were also conscious that we were a bit light on use of the Calgary and the locks at that point. So we thought, okay, well let's combine the two, and that's an 18 miler of itself. I don't think it's actually been run in that combination before. So yeah, quite excited for that. I from memory, I don't think even just running straight on through the crossroads at Smithy Junction has been done for a few years. The last time I think was in 2014. We ran the hill into the lochs, and there was a chicane at Smithy. So we're looking at something potentially similar to that.
When did you say that was, Richard?
2014. I think it was the last stage of the Friday night potentially. I would have done it, but I can't quite remember it. There's videos on YouTube that are worth a wee look.
Yeah.
So yeah, you would have been in the R. Were you in the R2 that year?
I think it would have been. I think 2013 was the Saxo. 2014 was the first year in the R2 car. Yeah.
Yeah. So that'll be quite cool. So we got the three southern stages straight, 2 miles around the corner at Grulin into the 22, 23 miler long and fast one. It's kind of important to us also in terms of that being the last stage of the loop, just in terms of how the safety cars work. It just makes their lives that little bit easier, because if you have it early in the leg, they're kind of chasing their tail for the rest of the loop. So good to have that as the last of the loop, and then into service, everybody can get a kind of a wee rest and then go again. But for sure, getting to a clear is going to be important to us on the first loop. But if we run non-comp up a reopened Loch Tua and then into 18 miler Calgary and the Lochs, it'll be really should hopefully be a good end to the event. That's going to be quite a meaty stage to finish the event on, straight down into electric. And hopefully, let's say we need to try and work a little bit on these road closure timings, but hopefully we, all things being equal, we can repeat a similar-ish sort of time, not too late into the morning for the Saturday night and wee hours of Sunday morning. And that's it. But yeah, I'm sure a lot of people kind of be asking about mileages, but rough indications at the moment are around 143. It was kind of important to us to be kind of north of 140 again this year. So we had some discussions about whether we should be over 150, but no, hopefully people kind of see that as kind of a good amount of mileage that they can really get their teeth stuck into. And for sure, the Saturday's still meaty. It's still going to be just over 60 miles. So long, but not too long. I know there were a lot of people this year that were kind of hanging on. It was quite the toughest kind of single night leg we've run for a wee while. But yeah, hopefully it'll be a good challenge to kind of finish the event on for everybody.
A new thing this year in the proposal, Richard, is Glengorm. That's exciting and sounds very much more representative. Perhaps we can get a bit more heat in the tyres and get a bit more of a feel for the car. Is that an idea that's been floated about before, or what's the thought on there? Do you think that'll go ahead?
It's been floated. It's been floated a little bit, and again, this is entirely down to the kind of consultation phase. So the kind of residents around that area, and Tom Nelson and everybody within Glencorn Estates. So it's an option. I think, let's say, we've kept Dewart available as it's so well known. I think the actual first time that a shakedown stage was used on Mull was actually the Vets Road. So it's been elsewhere before, but we're just looking at different ways we can kind of provide a little bit more mileage and as you say, representative. I think Dewart has a bit of a curve on the road as well, so it's slightly different in terms of setup. But we for us, I think actually in terms of the asking whether a shakedown's valid on Mull, for me it definitely is, because you have the nature of the roads is quite unique setup wise, and you have so many people that only do that one event a year, or you're maybe like yourself hiring a car, and you really can do with that seat time.
Absolutely. I've definitely found the shakedown stage to be really invaluable. It's been, it's a no-brainer, and anyone that asks me, I 100% recommend it to them. I personally haven't got to the stage where I adjust setups too much on it, but it's more like the shaking down of me, the equipment, the team, the setup. Sorry, not the setup. The car and everything. Just kind of getting the helmet on, so that when you go into 7 o'clock at night on a Friday night and you've got the headlamps bolted on, it's not so much the shock of capture, which I suppose that's probably a huge element of the Mull Rally, which is fantastic on the Friday night. But that shakedown probably relates to less accidents on the Friday night.
Yeah,
People are probably
yeah,
a
I
bit
think,
more sharp. So maybe even in a safety perspective,
yeah.
it's a good idea, a really good thing.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, so I think the obviously the challenge of a there and back again stage is the amount of downtime you kind of have in between runs. So if we're able to get a road slightly longer, then at least it kind of increases the, you know, if you're only doing 6 miles or 8 miles or something like that, if we can kind of bump those numbers up a little bit and just give people a little bit more seat time, it's definitely an option.
Whereabouts do you think it would start, Richard, or end, or how would you do
We're
it?
still discussing this exactly. I mean, the likes of we need to actually make sure that we've got sufficient service capacity as well. But the likes of Nonebel and the surrounding forestry, I think it's Ardmore forestry area, we might be able to do something with and kind of run from towards the castle. But there's kind of nascent ideas, and obviously we need to kind of flesh this out as part of the consultation. But yeah, it's just something different. It's another aspect of the event that's becoming a little bit staid. So we just want to make sure that we're not resting on our laurels and being complacent, and we kind of continue to seek improvements where we can. Not to say, let's say, Stuart does the job, but it's just to try and see if we can actually
Yeah.
do something a wee bit better for our customers. Really, like I say, I started
No.
out in go karting the same as yourself, and then into circuit racing, and then run out of money. So then then
Yeah.
became same old story. So then became a co-driver, and then the opportunity came to kind of get a wee bit more involved with marshalling and then organising to try and just learn the rule book a little bit, learn how things worked a little bit, and try to gain a competitive edge just by knowing how stuff works, and kind of things have gone from there really. So yeah, it's always trying to tap into all those different aspects of you know the rally scene and motorsport scene is so diverse across the range of roles that we have and the opportunities that people have to get involved with stuff. But everybody's got their own lens that they view stuff through. So it's
Mm.
important to try and kind of get everybody to, you know, try and see stuff through other people's eyes as much as possible. You got to realize that, you know, they're going to view it through their own lens primarily, and just try to make them enjoy it as much as possible. But no,
Yeah.
the other thing is that we're all on our own journeys as well, and I'm still learning. I think actually Mull for me, some people might say, has actually come quite early in my mid 30s. So there's definitely a journeying process there, and constantly learning and constantly evolving. But that's kind of when it comes down to building the team around you. And we've got a tremendously experienced team, both in terms of experience of the event and in terms of wider motorsport and rallying as well. So actually having that kind of mix of folk that know the event and also taking feedback from the regular competitors versus people that are maybe coming into the event fresh, both as competitors and volunteers, and thinking, well, why do you do it that way?
Yeah.
Is something that I've kind of, I think a few of us, particularly myself, have been trying to curate. Is just yeah, these past few years, just to try and make sure that we kind of constantly evolve and stay relevant.
Hmm. And then, so like the Mull Rally, how when you take all these ideas on and you get all these kind of things through, like probably take the good with the bad, I suppose. I think, I've probably got my slightly optimistic ideas of, more of a festival than just a couple of days, event. I think the thing with the Mull Rally is that we need to kind of try and get folk up for the full week, a full family holiday, get them all involved, that there's so many things that you can kind of bring to, like opening parties and like some sort of classic car or old kind of historic cars that aren't rallying in the car park on the Wednesday or the Thursday, or all these things. And we need to figure out how to get Pig Day going again. That's something that just kills me. It just kills me. I don't know how we
I
can do
stuck my
it.
head in the door of the Bellatroy this year and got stared out, almost sort of thing. You know, I need to make it kind of absolutely a massive thing. You know, so
It's got to be a
uh,
ticketed event. You get a ticket as part of your entry. That's like a must go. It's a non-negotiable. You won't get your finishers. You don't get your finishers
if you don't
Tunnock's
go.
biscuit unless you come to Pig Day.
So no, I definitely agree with you. I think one thing maybe not touched on, we've even more trumpeted enough, is actually it's probably more off the back of the 22 event, is that we tremendous kudos for us is that we made the finals of the Visit Scotland Thistle Awards this year, just a few weeks back. In fact, it was only last weekend, and
Yeah.
we were up against the Judy Murray's event in Aberdeen with the tennis, and then the PGA Tour Scottish Open Golf in East Lothian. Didn't win, the golf won that, but I think just in terms of, I'm not too sure when the last time a motorsport event made that top three in terms of best sporting event. But it's certainly rallying, and certainly not us for a good number of years. And I think that's reassuring to know that rallying by wider stakeholders and wider kind of event sector people
Yeah.
is still relevant. You worry a little bit that people will increasingly, outside of our wee niche sport, will see rallying as a kind of wee, let's say archaic or not relevant to kind of wider society right now. But it's actually cool to see that people still recognize that its value, particularly for rural communities like Mull. And I think that's really, it's given us some ideas as to it's not just a rally that you're organizing. I think this is a reframing that a lot of rally organizers are seeing in the last few 5-10 years.
Yeah.
Is it really is an event that you're putting on, not just a rally.
Yeah.
So I think how we develop that in the coming years, I must say, actually, Scunner and Andy did a tremendous job with this kind of during the 2010s of kind of really helping elevate the profile of the event. But I think there's tremendous opportunities. I mean, actually, even you look at the likes of Rally Ceredigion and what they've done in a short space of time, just in terms of their community engagement, from an idea around a pub table to being a European Championship event, and all their engagement with schools and everything else has been tremendous. So I think there's already a lot of good stuff that we do. And the forum, the schools engagement, with the tea cake contest and pig day, but I think it's as you say about how we kind of stitch it together and grow that. But yeah, no, just ideas. It's all time, it's all effort, and it's all money. But
Absolutely. And I mean,
it's
you're kind of saying it's all about money. These cars that we're using, they cost an absolute bloody fortune, let's be honest. We can't afford to be doing that every year. I mean, what would you like to see after taking inspiration from the RAC rally? Like, would you like to see a fleet of Mark II escorts in the top 10? Is that what you would like to see? Where would you
it's
like to
hard.
see it go?
It's hard to tell, isn't it? Like, um, I don't know. I think the RSC has been a fantastic shot in the arm for rallying in this country. In fairness to Colin
Absolutely.
Heppenstall and
Fantastic.
everybody. So yeah, but it's kind of a reminder to the rest of us. Okay, is how do we capture what understand what they've achieved and capture that enthusiasm and distill it into other events. We're seeing entries kind of struggling, not just Mull this year, but I've entries and buzz elsewhere in rallying. You're kind of sometimes struggling. So how do we capture that enthusiasm? Is it just because we've not had Rally GB for a few years and people have been craving that that scale of event and that in that rallying in Wales as well, particularly, or is it the likes of your big ticket names like Oliver Solberg and Chris Meek and Chris Ingram, or is it just that sense of adventure and everything else? Or there's a lot of variables that I think event organizers need to understand, but it's kind of good that a successful event can be many different things. The RAC has gone about in a very, very different way to Rally Ceredigion, but both are tremendously successful events and in their own right, and Mull is as well. So I think it's about kind of finding our market position, I guess, but what people want Mull to be, but also what Mull can be, and how we can kind of make it sexier or more impactful, or whatever the case may be, kind of as an event, not just as a rally.
I mean, it's the Mull Rally in my mind. Like, I just can't not kind of steer away from this. Callum Duffy's Mark II, just lighting it up. That was my childhood. Just absolutely loved it. And for me, that's what the Mull Rally is. And I would love to see more Mark IIs on that top step. And we're kind of budgeted out of it a wee bit with the technology and stuff and these kind of Rally 2 cars and stuff. But I mean, is there an opportunity for like similar to like Donegal, like like the National Rally, or like like a two-wheel drive trophy or something? Is there,
Yeah, no,
is there something we can do there? Because I think that would be very attractive.
yeah, there definitely is. I mean, even when about a year or so, I kind of started asking what I call the fundamental questions, and say, what is this thing? Do we need to look at the likes of that? Do we need to? You look at the likes of the Jim Clark, and they have two events. They have the Clark, and then they have the Reavers. Is there maybe an opportunity where if somebody wanted to run a shorter event, do you do that, and does it have a separate classification and things like that? You kind of ask what is this event? So yeah, I think for sure there's opportunities there. And I think it's also not just the kind of the overall aspect, but it's looking at the stories throughout the field. The guys up and coming in the kind of home built courses and novas, and even just wee stories like Finn Thomason this year from Achnadrish, just did a fantastic job from the back of the field, and just missed out on finishing the event. So and
Good
the
car
two
as
wheel,
well.
yeah.
That's one of
But
ex-Fergus Barlow, that one.
that's your Saxo, isn't it? Yeah. So no, and even the two-wheel drive battle, the likes of guys like Stuart Morrison and Michael Harbour actually just working their way up the season, in the past few years, and there's battles up and down the field. So I think it's not just about the front of the field; it's about the depth through the field and how we kind of encourage everybody and curate that and I have a mix of both people that have been coming to the event for years and years, but also try and keep encouraging and that fresh blood in and those kind of new stories, I guess, and emerging stories. So that's the stuff that kind of really excites me is kind of the storytelling aspect of kind of what we do, I guess, is that
Yeah.
you're helping people to write their own stories, I guess. You're providing a platform to people to go out and enjoy themselves and carry on their own journey in sport. So yeah, that's something that kind of really excites me, and I think that's something for us to look at, and also learning from the likes of the RAC is about how you provide that platform for people to write stories, I guess.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I did discuss this in the Carbon Positive podcast about, that the Mull Rally is a lot about basically the grassroots rallying. It's about these competitors that you're talking about that have built the car over, a year. They can only afford to do one event a year, and they come and do Mull, and they bring the whole family. And some of them aren't even looking necessarily for a result; they're just looking for a finish and have the best time of their lives. And I absolutely love that. So I think yeah, you're right. It's not just about the top 10, is it? The Mull Rally is about, the the folk down the 90s, the hundreds, all the way back. It's about everyone, and that's who makes this rally, because without them we'd be nothing. But yeah, at the front though, no, very, very, very exciting stuff. Wouldn't it be great to have a gentleman's agreement where we all say we're not spending all this stupid money
I
and we're
don't leave it to me. Don't leave it to me to ban R5s or whatever. Please, just
no, no, there'll be no
sort it
banning,
amongst
but
yourselves.
can you imagine a bit of a gentleman's agreement where we said, right, we're not going to spend stupid money, we're not going to break the bank, we're just going to spend half the amount and we're going to have twice the fun.
A
And you never know
rally
who we
three.
might get up.
Hey, I rally. Ask me and Cammy fair about rally threes, yeah. So we can that'll be what you can use next year. Half
Well,
the money and three-quarters of the pace. That'll do.
yeah, but I mean, just it doesn't take much persuading when you listen to David Bogie's Mark II off the line. Now I know that that's a Mark II in shell, and that's about where it ends, but it sounds good, doesn't it? But no, oh look, we'll see what happens. But exciting stuff anyway, Richard, and yeah, thanks very much for coming on and having a bit of a chat, a bit of an honest chat about it. And yeah, I suppose nothing's set in stone, is it? So it's just the proposed route. So let's just hope
Yeah,
that, fingers crossed, that we do get these things pushed through, and yeah, that it can
I
get
think
confirmed.
that's important for us as well as at this kind of stage because you don't want it to be fait accompli. You want it is an open dialogue with the island community in particular. It's their roads at the end of the day that we're closing, and we've got so many visitors from off island that are bringing all this business and whatnot to them during October. So it's really important for us to kind of get the views of the island community during this time. But also, it's not we apply for the road closures in April, so it's still a kind of iterative, ongoing process. throughout that. So yeah, it's not set in stone. You know, we might move a road closure by an hour or two here or there just to make sure that everything works. But yeah, it's at this point, obviously, it's other closed road events do this kind of consultation phase differently. But at the end of the day, we need to show to Argyll and Butte Council and everybody else that, you know, we've taken the views of everybody into account, and yeah, through the feedback surveys and now this process now. Hopefully we're seen to be doing that, and hopefully, like I say, everybody's in favour, and we can have a buzzing event in October 24.
Excellent. Very exciting stuff to come then, Richard. So, no, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you having a chat. And yeah, we'll look forward to it, and we'll see you in October.
No, thanks very much for having us on, Fergus. It's really appreciated, and hopefully you don't have to stick me in front of a camera too much between now and then. So
I'll get
see
you
you
again.
then.
No, that's great. Thank you so much, Richard. Cheers.